We are back. Not the yellow brick road, okay, but the right path to retirement. Podcast hosted by Jimmy Lynn, president, founder, and financial advisor at, rightfully named, Right Path Wealth Management. Get in touch with Jimmy and the team in Las Vegas there. Las Vegas, Nevada. All right, not Nevada. I always have to train myself.
You're almost a local.
I just almost, yeah, until I say y'all, and then you're like, okay. But get in touch with Jimmy, with you and the team, rightpathwm.com or 702-805-7000. Complimentary consultation is the first step at getting on the right path and having a talk with you, Jimmy. Hope you're well today.
Good. Just funny you say the y'all. I'll tell you one thing. Remember, I'm originally from Houston.
That's right.
So I came to Nevada with y'all and probably calling it Nevada. Yeah. But you pretty quickly start saying Nevada, and you kind of pretty quickly lose the y'all, which I feel a little guilty about because it's you're leaving your roots.
It's efficient. It's only very efficient that Southerners do. All right.
So. It's super efficient. And I don't know, it just progressed. I mean, I've been in Las Vegas for about 20 years now, but I lived in Houston, I don't know, for nearly 20 years. So I had it built in, but over time you adapt, and it's kind of just left the lingo.
Rest in peace and Godspeed to Jimmy Lynn saying y'all. Okay, we'll have to leave that to me here now, Jimmy. First off, by the time you all hear this will be in the past. But I want to say, just a couple of days after this recording, NASCAR will be racing in Las Vegas, and the only reason I bring it up, Jimmy, not because I'm just a diehard NASCAR fan, but one of the drivers, John Hunter Nemechek, is going to be sponsored by the Backstreet Boys show at the Sphere. All right. So the Backstreet Boys are playing at the Sphere. And I just wanted to know, I couldn't remember, did you buy 2 tickets or 4, Jimmy? That's the only question I have for you.
Well, I just bought 2, one for me and one for you.
Perfect. So. Okay. And that's the end of the show, everybody. RightPathWM.com. We'll see you later. No, okay. Yes. I had to do that. But I had a coworker, or I have a couple of coworkers. One was mainly doing it for their wife and daughter, so they say. But they were like in a race of the computers trying to buy like 5 or 8 of these or something like that so they could have enough for them and their family and they could go out there together. And that was one of the more interesting things to watch in the office that day. All right. So anyway, John Hunter Nemechek in the Backstreet Boys car. And John Hunter Nemechek was born in like 1998. So he actually came out after they did, which is even better. All right. So that's fun. You're going to have to do some serious budgeting in your retirement if you're wanting to afford tickets of any ilk at the Sphere. We know those go for tons of money. And we're going to talk about retirement budgeting today, Jimmy. So I know I just did the awkward transition right into that, but suddenly I grew up with a grandmother in all of my grandparents grew up in the Depression, and my grandma, who we stay with every day, you would have thought she never had any money, right? She was very much. I was under the assumption we're retired, we have a fixed income, we can't do anything. It's eating, canned vegetables the rest of our life, or whatever it is. How do you help people with retirement budgeting and realizing that they actually maybe have more or can have more than they realize?
Well, that's funny that you ask, because this is actually just this week I met with a prospect about this. But I think that the first thing is, the very base level of any type of retirement planning is know what you want to spend. It's not difficult, but it takes time. So first thing is really identifying what are those fixed costs that you just cannot live without. Like if you have a mortgage, you got to pay your mortgage because you need a roof over your head. You got to pay those utilities. You got to pay those property taxes. There's probably some component of a healthcare cost you have, whether it's your Medicare Part B, your supplemental plan. So these are all not nice to have. These are requirements for you to just survive. And then, of course, you need some type of food budget. So that's the minimum that you need, is just understanding what are those numbers. It's not responsible to go into retirement to stop those paychecks without knowing what the base level you need to spend. We actually encourage people sometimes, depending on when they meet with us, to say, you know what, you're looking to retire in 2 years or a year maybe. Let's make this next year an experiment. Let's understand how much you're able to spend like you're in retirement, and kind of figure out what's a comfortable number and really track your numbers. Because that's the easiest thing anyone can do. You don't need to know about the high-flying investments or the tax planning, estate planning. The easiest thing that anyone with no background in retirement planning can do is figure out what that base level budget is. But for us, we don't want people doing the minimum. We don't want them just sleeping in their bed, waking up and not really doing anything fun, eating beans and rice because that's all they think that they can afford. And funny enough, like your example you're saying, a lot of times people can afford a lot more, but they just don't know what that number is.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the critical part. And I'll give you an easy example. Met with a client this week and comes in, get to know each other. Great guy. I mean, he served the military for decades and then worked with the state of Nevada. And so he's here now in Las Vegas. We're talking about his retirement. Like, so how much do you spend? What are your expenses? How much income do you need? And didn't really have a quick answer. Not even a roundabouts. We literally had to start breaking down numbers. So his budget's not based on anything regarding what his needs are and what his desires are. His budget is purely created based on his cash flow.
Wow. Okay. Right? And then when you had a conversation with it, did that suddenly change his idea? Did he suddenly go, oh, I have more than I think? Or?
Well, 100%, because really what we had to really map out was, first of all, the kind of advantages of him maybe delaying his Social Security till age 70, because if we're worried about cash flow, that's the easiest way to increase his cash flow. But now we have a gap, because I don't want to tell him, hey, let's delay your Social Security, but I want him to also spend more money. Everything that you've worked so hard for, you've done all the right things, you've put away into these retirement accounts, you've saved money. And I know that your worst fear is seeing those accounts deplete. But this is the moment you've worked so hard for. These next few years of retirement where you're strong and healthy and you and your wife want to go travel and enjoy life, this is where we want to generate an income plan where we can take things like the pension that he's receiving, the Social Security that he could take now or delay, and the other assets that he's worked so hard to accumulate. Let's take that pile of money and actually create a plan. Because what a lot of people do is they think that they have that pile of money and they're just going to pick at that pile to create their income stream. But that's not a plan. That's just taking money out of an account, hoping that those accounts are still growing in value and you're not losing any of that through your income. And then just hoping that you could make it for the next 20 or 30 years, just picking away at that what you've saved up. Well, what we're doing is we're creating a long-term plan where you're going to be able to enjoy your retirement for the next 5 years, but then over the next 30 years, you and your wife are both going to be covered and you will never run out of money. And you will always be able to enjoy retirement that is going to be able to match inflation and cover things like long-term care costs in the future. And when he started to realize that what he worked so hard for in retirement was now what he's going to use to enjoy these years, he really the wheels started turning and he really kind of understood the plan. And it started with understanding his budget. And I kind of to bring it back home, it's like knowing the budget is one thing, but you need to know that budget in order to then create that income plan, because you need an income plan that matches your desires. You don't need a budget that matches your current cash flow,
right? Because
you can create more cash flow without blowing up your plan.
Right. You have to have a starting point to get on the right path, right? You don't just kind of wing it there and pick at the pile, as you said there. So if someone wants to start that conversation with you, Jimmy, just as you've done with many people over the years there, and it's a very personal subject for you, what do you recommend they do to just start having that complimentary consultation?
Yeah, as always, the easiest thing to do is to reach out to our office, 702-805-7000. Get on my calendar, and we will have a conversation about really understanding what do you want in retirement? What are your goals? What are the experiences that you want to have by yourself or with a spouse or a loved one? And we will start to paint that picture of what your retirement could look like, and we can create a plan that can get you as close to possible a reality as we can through the assets that you've worked so hard to accumulate over your working years.
Right. There's no reason that you should just assume you're going to run out of money and have to live off of beans. All right. But B, there's no reason that it should fall through the cracks too. If you have a plan, you're going to get the most out of it and have more than likely the most enjoyment too, unless you just like living right on the edge. So, which you're out in Las Vegas, Jimmy. Some people do, I guess, right? But no, get that number dialed up, 702-805-7000, or go to rightpathdwm.com. And Jimmy, thanks for sharing these real personal stories here. You always bring something great to the table about what your experiences have been. And I know that means a lot to a lot of people.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Doug. And these stories are just stories that people are willing to share with me, and I love sharing it with the rest of the community.
Just by talking around there, it's you learn a lot. So get in touch with Jimmy, complimentary consultation, and start building that plan. It has to have a starting point. 702-805-7000. Be sure to check out Right Path Wealth Management's Facebook page too. They got a lot of good content up there, including sharing these new episodes. If you want to go dig back into the library of these episodes, we've got almost 24 of them now, and you can find those on Apple, Spotify, some of the other podcatchers, and on the media tab at rightpathdwm.com, where you can also go get that appointment. Big thanks to everybody that continues to listen here. If you hear something, you think someone in my circle needs to hear this. Gosh, I sure wish my mom would get it together on that. I keep reminding her, send them the link. Let them get to know Jimmy a little bit better. Maybe intimidating to call it first to them. Give it a listen and get to know Jimmy and the team just a little better. Send them the link. Be sure to share that and subscribe, because these episodes come out roughly every 2 weeks. Thanks also to our producer, Daniel Salerson, for getting this published and put together and keeping us on track. He is Jimmy Lynn, president, founder, and financial advisor at Right Path Wealth Management. I'm Doug Turnbull. Thank you so much for listening to Right Path to Retirement. We'll have another episode coming your way here sooner than later.
Insurance products are offered through the insurance business Right Path Wealth Management. Right Path Wealth Management is also an investment advisory practice that offers products and services through Impact Partnership Wealth, LLC, IPW, a registered investment advisor. IPW does not offer insurance products. The insurance products offered by Right Path Wealth Management are not subject to investment advisor requirements. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This podcast is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. Right Path Wealth Management is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during this show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained by sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Right Path Wealth Management.